Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the 100. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. We're obviously picking up immediately at the last week's episode. And last week, I was throwing out all these theories about, we could do this, we could do that to bring Bellamy back. Because I'm like, there's no way you're just killing off Bellamy. No, we're just straight up killing Bellamy. This episode just made me solidify more. I'm like, I think we're sticking with that death. I mean, deaths are deaths. So, like, they don't really reverse those on most occasions. Like, when you die in this series, you're pretty much dead. So, there's that whole situation. And obviously, Clark's breaking down, and obviously she pops in and everyone's like, oh, what's wrong, Clark? And it's like, oh, where are we? Oh, we're in the bunker. We're in the pit. And it's like, holy crap. So this is where it leads to. And then obviously it's like they run into Gaia because this is where Gaia's been. And I love that this completely throws out my theory because I was like, oh, the person that had Gaia might have been someone significant setting some stuff in motion, some time travel stuff. It's like, no, he was some disciple rando that got killed off because Gaia bashed his head in with his weapons. And it was like, oh, no, he's completely taken. He was just some rando. He was no one of importance. To the point we didn't even get to see his face. We heard his voice and that was it. That's all you needed. I was like, I thought that was going to be something specific and it turned out not to be the case. It turned out to be something like it's over and done with already. So that was interesting. I also thought it was pretty interesting how they explained how she got there. It's basically because it locks onto, like, when those are about to close, the last thing they lock onto, it's with the signature in your DNA. So obviously they're from Earth, him as well, because even though he's a disciple and he was on Bordeaux, like originally they're all human, so their lineage all traces back to humanity. So it's written in their DNA, so it automatically took them back to Earth. And it turns out this is also where, because obviously, that's where Bill took them all, but then obviously he takes a pill that's basically a tracker. They lock onto him and they yank him back. So there's that. Then there's the whole thing of like, hey, this is also where everyone else is. You run into, Jordan, Nate, Echo, and Octavia. Everyone's rushing. Oh, we're all reunited. But then you have Clark staying in the back, and it's like, oh, where's Bellamy? And she's like, I was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to tell them the truth? And she says, Bellamy's dead. And Murphy's like, what? No, he was alive. She's like, I shot him. The fact of the matter is he was going to turn Maddie in. She's like, I had to do whatever I could to protect Maddie. The fact of the matter is I tried, but he wouldn't listen. And Octavia and both Echo. And I was like, oh, dude, how's this going to play out? And Octavia hugs her. She's like, I understand. She's like, if old Bellamy would have understand, too, the need to protect the people that you care about. Because that's what Bellamy was all about. He knew the sacrifices that was necessary, that you would do anything for the people you care about. And so Octavia, it's okay with Clark doing what she did because it's also, and Echo too, because even Clark was like, you can hate me if you want, but obviously for Echo, it's like, we lost Bellamy a long time ago. Like, he was so lost. He needed something. He needed to make this sense. All the violence, all the people we've killed, he needed to make sense. And for him, Bill was able to do that. He couldn't accept kind of like the randomness of it all, that this is just kind of, it is what it is, that there's nothing bigger, there's no grander plan, there's nothing else to it. This is just us living, this is humanity, this is just surviving, And so she ends up hugging Clark too, and it's just like all three of them grieving because those are the people that Bellamy meant the most to. And what I thought was kind of a beautiful thing is obviously everyone else is just kind of leaning their head down, like, and then you see like a single tear dropping out of Murphy's face. He's like, yo, because let's not also forget, like, Murphy and and Maury, Raven, they all spent that 6 years up there with Bellamy, so obviously it's going to hit them more. I mean, yeah, like Bellamy and Murphy's had their history, their issues over the years, but more so than anything, a lot of that got deaded, the moment they were, in the space for that time period. So it's like, now it's like, here we are, at the bunker, got to bunker down, making our home and everything. And I thought it was kind of neat. Octavia is literally the only one that won't go back in there, because obviously for her, it's like, this place holds a lot of ghosts for her. This is who she was when she was Blood Raina. So obviously she does not like who she was then. So, and then it's like, okay, so, but there must be a gate nearby. Hey, let's put it on it. Like, no, we already tried looking. So, but then like Raven puts hers on it and she's able to find it. It's like, oh yeah, it's down below. The reason why none of you could find it is because they made sure to give you shitty helmets so you couldn't find your way off of this planet. So it's like, oh my God. Clark is like, oh, give me that. And then she smashes it. And everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? For her, it's like, no, everyone we care about is right here. This is the group that, we went to, Sanctum with, and it's like, this is the group, what's remaining of the group that went to Sanctum. Like, this is our core group. We got all the people we care about here. Like, let's just bunker down. This is our home to begin with anyway. Because they don't really answer it too much, but it's like, oh, look, Earth is good again and everything. So you can only assume, like, it's been a long time. So that must mean, like, well, because to be fair, like, they were drifting for a while because, what did Monty? Monty was basically like, Earth going back to the state it was going to take a long time, even longer than he thought it would. So I'm assuming Earth must move on a completely different time than Sanctum, than Bardo. It must be on a completely different level for there to be greenery and everything, considering everything that went down at the end of season 5. So it's like, it has to be like, yeah, this is like 100 extra years afterwards, after like Monty like planned to wake them up and everything, because it's been like, it was like, if I remember correctly, at the end of season 5, it was like a 250-year time skip, was it? I think, whatever the case may be. So the planet's restored, and obviously Clark wants to make this her home. And obviously, I think this was a really neat episode, just to kind of keep the plot going, but also at the same time take a step back and just breathe, and just like everyone kind of deal with a lot of stuff they have to deal with. Like, the fact of the matter is, the animosity that exists between Maddie and Clark, because Clark is like, I know you're mad at me, but I did this but for her it's like, this is you making a decision for me yet again, because once again Clark's need to protect her, like it's come in. I mean, to be fair, and that's something that's happened for Clark multiple times, just like, the cost of protecting someone, leads to issues in some other regard. So the fact of the matter is, for Maddie, it's like, again, you made another choice for me. I never asked you to do that. You killed Bellamy for me. And she's like, that's going to haunt you. I don't want that for you, But obviously for Clark, it's like, that's who I am. I didn't make that decision just for you. I made it for everyone. Again, because literally, I mean, that's always been a burden that's always fallen to Clark. She's kind of put upon herself, because it's like, I will be the one that has to make the hard choices that no one else can make. She's done that time and time and time again. And especially for Maddie, especially for her, it's just because, like, you've done things back-to-back seasons for the purposes of doing it for me, and other people have to pay the price for it. So obviously, Maddie's kind of fed up and everything, especially because, it's like, she's like, yeah, our family and friends are here. It's like, no, these are your friends. These people are people I heard from stories. I don't have the connection to these people like you do. I don't, basically, because it's like, that's her pseudo family because of Clark. They're family by proxy. These are her friends and family, essentially, So, and for, her, it's like, I was making friends. I had people around me. Like, I was almost building a life of my own until you ruined my life like you ruined yours. And she kind of storms off. At the same time, there's the whole thing about, I love the whole thing with, Murphy being like, hey, Raven, you're going to have to fix that helmet. It's like, what? It's like, we can't stay here no matter what Clark says. The fact of the matter is, those people on Sanctum, they need it. Like, this is just as much their home as it is ours, so we need to get this done, It's like, but Raven's like, oh, it'll take a miracle. And he's like, yeah, I mean, are you willing to, basically, it's like, it kind of basically throws the hatch thing in her face again, and she gets motivated. And he's like, 6 years of Bellamy manipulating her like that, and they both pause and everything. He's like, shit. She's like, yeah, I know, I miss him too. And it's like, oh, but that was such a neat little thing. And I even love it later on when he's like, are you done with that? And they're both looking at her, and he's just like, sorry. And she's like, miracles take time. She's like, geez, Hero Murphy, this is so weird. And I love him more being like, I know, right? It's kind of hot. And then Raven's looking at her like, what? And he's like, I'm over here. I can hear you. I love that whole situation. It's like, look at you. Once again, Murphy being the selfless hero. Him literally being the one that's like, oh, let's go save everyone else. What? John effing Murphy? As in just John, fucking Murphy is what I'm implying. Might as well just had it at this point, since I had to go back and explain myself. Being the one that's like, oh, let's be selfless and save people. Yeah, he had his hero moments in the past, but like, it's consistent heroism after heroism. But he's just like, no, it's not me being a hero. I just don't. It's like, shut up, Murphy. You're a hero now. Just accept it. You're a goody two shoes like the rest of us. And granted, everyone else is kind of a goody two shoes with their own complicated of like, we fuck up from time to time. So that's a whole thing in itself. I thought it was a beautiful thing between Jackson and Nate too, because obviously, Nate's kind of thinking about the whole Bellamy thing because he's like, I told Bellamy I'd forgive him and I'll never get the chance now. He's like, after everything I did, Bellamy was willing to forgive me, and for him not to be able to return that either. Like, especially once again, it's like, we're talking Bellamy, dude. Like, OG. Like, the fact of the matter is, one of the OGs to this whole thing. So for him to be gone, that just, it hits everybody hard. The whole thing about, like, Octavia not want to go back inside. And even, Indra being there. And I didn't realize how good it made me feel to see them on camera. It's like, right, this is your first time being in the same scene together, this scene, right? I mean, this season, right? And it's like, oh, to see you together again. And she's saying something, and Indra's like, oh, did you learn that from Lincoln? And she's like, well, you weren't my only teacher. She was like, yeah, but I was your best one. But it was like, right, just seeing those two together, because I think it slips my mind, because I was like, right, you two have so much history together. Indra, basically, even aside from, like, eventually that, the Blood Raina thing, it's like, Indra was always there pushing and training Octavia. She's the one, other than Lincoln, Indra was because that also led to a little animosity, because obviously for Gaia, it's like, oh, your new daughter, Octavia, so that was a little bit of that animosity when Gaia first showed up in the show. But I thought it was interesting because obviously, it's like, even after, because obviously, for Indra, she's like, it's only been a couple of days since I saw you, but for you, it's been 10 years. I thought you would have gotten over the, dealt with your demons. And she's like, I thought I would have too. But the moment she came back into the pit, it all came back and she didn't want to go back in there. Indra's like, if you're not going back in there, I won't either. Because what you did as Blood Raina, you did to survive. And the fact of the matter, and that's kind of a similar conversation that Jackson and Nate were having, because Nate regretted a lot of stuff that he did too, but Jackson was like, yeah, your dad sacrificed, because Nate was saying, like, what if my dad saw me, all the stuff I did, he wouldn't be proud of me, like, he wouldn't like what he saw of me. But Jackson's like, but Nate, your dad literally sacrificed himself so that you could survive, and that's what you've done. You survived and you're here right now, so that's all that would matter to him. But in the same vein, like, Indra's trying to tell her, like, all that you did as Blood Raina isn't just on you. She's like, I have blood on my hands too. We were Blood Raina. It wasn't just you. So it's like, you don't have to face your demons alone, and they face them together. And I thought this beautiful thing of, like, when Gaia was like, I used to hate the way you look there. And she's like, Gaia. And she's like, no, I get it. And she's like, no, but the fact of the matter is, like, she's kind of happy about the relationship. But basically, she's also like, for Indra, because Guy was like, I'm sorry I wasn't the warrior daughter you wanted, but Indra was like, no, you're not at fault, I'm the one that's sorry, basically saying that you are my daughter, you are my light, essentially. It's like, don't ever, like, apologize for being you. Like, I'm the one that should be apologizing for making you feel like you weren't adequate as a daughter. You are my daughter, especially being separated from her, finding out, where's Gaia? We don't know, like, she didn't know what had happened to her, so obviously that changes a lot, because, who knows, because obviously for Gaia, she had said it's been like a couple days there, which also must also show that, like, time on Sanctum, and, so that must have mean that, like, sometime, while because I think, because once again, it's been a while since I saw season 5's finale, but it's like, after a certain point in time, Monty and Harper must have given up on going back to Earth, so they moved on, and that journey that will eventually lead them to Sanctum, probably during that time, because obviously that would mean that, like, there wasn't that much time in between Gaia landing there, and so that means that Sanctum and Earth aren't too far off time-wise, so it can't be that much longer than if that was the case. I mean, I don't know. That's what it kind of makes it seem like time doesn't pass that long on Sanctum, because they didn't really dive into it too much. But regardless, I just thought that was kind of neat. At the same time, you have Nyla she was like, basically like, no killing, no spitting, nor cussing in this room, and she has some stashed away alcohol, and it's like, oh, stuff that Monty made, and Jordan takes a swig, and it's like, oh my god, this is disgusting, and he's like, smooth, and then they're giving it to Hope, and she's drinking, she's like, oh my god, that's awful. He's like, yeah, and so they're all drinking a little bit. I love that later on, Nyla, like, Maddie walked into the room, and Nyla's hiding the bottle behind her back, And it's like, because I love that she was drinking, and then when you cut back to her, she was in the vent. It's like, what were you doing? Was that her just kind of like, was she so drunk that she just laid in the vent? I'm like, what are you doing? And Maddie's like, it's okay, you can drink in front of me. It's like, and Gabriel's like, I think she's drunk enough. She's like, I'm fine, let's party. Then cut to it a little bit later, she's throwing up. It's just kind of like, yeah, party's over. And it's like, you are plastered, and I love it. She goes off, with Echo, and that leads to an interesting conversation, because for Echo, it's like, my real name is Ash. And it's like, for her, it's like her biggest regret is like, I never told Bellamy the truth about me, that my real name is Ash. Like, she never told him her real story, because remember, we found out her real situation last season, and because at first she said like, oh, I told someone my real name just to save my own life, but I was like, I couldn't remember what the circumstances were, but it was last season. It was like, I think she was being interrogated or turned into I don't remember what the circumstances were. It was the engineering dude, wasn't he? Was kind of pseudo a good guy, pseudo wasn't. It was a whole thing. But I couldn't remember fully the circumstances, but it's like, you're right, that's when we learned about her whole situation with really her name being Ash. Echo's actually the name of her friend that she killed for the queen, because her queen was like, okay, now you two have to go against each other, and Ash ended up killing Echo and ended up taking her friend's name, because I think she felt too much shame to be herself anymore. Regardless. Or did the queen make her take Echo's name? I think she just took Echo's name. But for her, it's like, Bellamy never knew that about me. It's like, she's like, I didn't want Bellamy to know the truth about me, because I'd rather him see me the person I'd become, rather than the person, he'd feel pity for who I was. But Nyla's like, the fact of the matter is, Bellamy obviously knew who you really were, because if he didn't really see you for who you were, like, he would have never been with you as long as he was. So, and it's like, you don't have to worry, Ash. You're not the only one with secrets. I didn't completely understand what Nyla was insinuating, because it sounds like she was saying like, I was to be the Ice Queen's, and it's like, but you're Tree Crew. She's like, yeah, but on my dad's side. My mom's side, I was essentially Ice Nation, and I don't know whether that's supposed to imply like, oh, I was supposed to serve her in that regard, or was that supposed to be like I'm supposed to be hers? Like, I didn't know how to interpret that. I'm sure a lot of people who like remember a lot of earlier season stuff will probably be like, idiot, Michael, it's this. If you do remember and you do understand, do fill me in, because I feel like I'm interpreting that wrong, because I didn't really get it, but obviously it means she has ties to like Ice Nation, as Geta, as she was saying. That is Ice Nation, right? If I'm not mistaken, or is Geta and Ice Nation different? Regardless, because she was even saying like, yeah, that's why my mom hid her scars and everything. But so it's like, that was just kind of an interesting thing. Like, oh, this late in the game we're learning more about her, and it took her getting drunk to kind of reveal that, because I think she, kind of implying like she would have gone forever not telling anyone. I was like, does it? Because let's not forget, her and Clark were a thing for a while. So it's like, does Clark know that about you? Makes you wonder. But nevertheless, and then we have Bill, he's up there with good old Shade Hated, because it's like, yeah, of course you're going to be alive, you bastard. And it's like, all right, who wrote this book? It's who drew all these pages? He's like, all right, make you a deal. You leave Sanctum to me, I'll tell you all you need to know. He's like, all right, fine, but the fact of the matter is, whether you participate in this war or not, the fact of the matter is, all humanity is going to transcend, even you. We're going to move past all this annoying human flesh. And he's like, honestly, I like this human flesh. It's fairly new for me, but the fact of the matter is, obviously, it's like, what Bill has planned and everything is going to drag everyone into it. So Shadehate is just kind of looking for whatever he can that will work out for him. So it's like, all right, Maddie's the one that drew this and everything. And he doesn't comment on it, but we do see that Bill sees a drawing of Callie. He just doesn't say anything about it. But with that all said and done, it's like, okay, I'll be the one to go after Maddie. I've been inside her head. I know what she's thinking, so send me. And they do. He pops in. That shitty hidden technology, being invisible thing, take mad advantage of that, following Octavia and Clark around, hoping to find their way to Maddie. Maddie's taking piano lessons with Gabriel. I thought it was interesting because she was like, oh, this seems so familiar when she's playing the piano. And Gabriel's like, oh yeah, that's Beethoven for you. But it's like, it must be one of the past commanders. Like, obviously, like, one of them must... I wonder, is that Alexa thing or is that somebody else? That might be like a Becca thing. That might have been an Alexa thing. Might have been a Callie thing for all we know. Because I'm trying to remember. Once again, it's been forever. Because that would have, obviously that's like season 1, 2, or 3. Because I'm trying to remember when Lexa got introduced. I want to say it was she even introduced in season 1, or was it season? She might have been introduced in season 1. I don't remember. Obviously, like, she died partway into season. Was it partway into season 3, or was it partway into season 2 when Lexa died? Might have been partway. I don't remember. It's been so long. Regardless. The fact of the matter is, that's why I'm trying to remember whether or not we saw Lexa playing the piano. I feel like there would have never been some opportunity. It feels like it might have been like a Becca thing. It had to be like an older commander being able to do that. Or, like I said, it could have been Callie, sorry. So, regardless of the whole situation, though, I think that's what that's hinting to. I think kind of showing that more and more of those visions and what she's seeing and feeling is leaving through her. It's becoming maybe a little bit more physical rather than just 100% mental, whatever the case may be. So there's that. Sadly, we see Gabriel get stabbed. I'm like, no! I was like, are you serious? And obviously, he's coming after Maddie, being like, okay, we can do this the easy way, the hard way. He kind of wants to go the hard way, but then Gabriel saves her. I'm like, yeah. But then he stabs Gabriel more. I was like, shit! She's running for her life. Obviously, you have Indra as well as Gaia protecting her. And it's like, before Indra could finish it, the bastard stabbed himself with a knife. I was like, what? I was like, oh, right. The same thing that happened to Octavia when Hope stabbed her at the end of season 6. And so it's like that bastard transported back. And it's like, well, shit. Everyone manages to get free. And obviously Gabriel's there dying. It's like, all right, let's do something. But Gabriel doesn't want to, because obviously for him, he's lived for so long. It's like that's what he's wanted. He's looked for an opportunity. He's been searching for death, and now it's like after all this time, I finally get to die. And obviously it means it hits Hope and Octavia hard, because obviously it's like, after everything, especially for Hope, because it's like the time because obviously they went through so much together on Bardo, but also like for Hope, it's like, this is the only person from this group she got close to. Her and Echo are the only ones that she got close to in that time frame. They spent 5 years together on Penance, or Skyring. There was actually another dope moment that I ended up skipping over that I thought was kind of interesting, where it's like we see Jordan and Hope getting close together. I was like, oh, wait, it's this? But obviously she kind of runs away, and Gabriel's like, this is the part where you follow her. And I love Murphy trying to cheer her up. And she's like, oh, I know about you. And he's like, oh, so you heard stories about me. And she's basically like, well, this. And he's like, oh, the other stories, the kind of shitty stories about John Murphy. But then, you have Jordan show up and like, I'll take it from here, Murphy. He's like, okay. See, he heard all the stories about me because I was your favorite, wasn't I, Jordan? And then in that moment, I had to stop up. I was like, that's interesting, because there's 3 different characters that kind of know this group, but only by, like, they're 3 outsiders. Maddie, Hope, and Jordan are outsiders. They only know this group by association. Granted, Gabriel's in the same vein. Gaia is too, but obviously she's a little more associated with them. Obviously she's got direct ties, considering she's Indra's, daughter, and also like obviously she was there for Maddie and everything. But the fact of the matter is, I said that a lot. I need to stop saying that so much. The fact of the matter is, it sounds so douchey when I think about it in retrospect. Regardless, I was literally about to say it again. The fact is, I just like that that's just an interesting thing I've never taken the time to think about. And all the time it's like, oh yeah, all 3 of you've heard the stories. Like, once again, these are just people through stories. They're not so for them to at least in the case of Hope and Jordan, for them to kind of find each other, especially because Jordan's like, I understand what you're going through. He's like, it's not easy, but it will get it's not going to be easy, but it gets a little easier. The fact is, because he woke up to find his parents gone, because they, Harper and Monty put him on ice, and they died while he was, in cryo. So he understands that whole thing of never being able to say goodbye to your parents, just like she does. And it's just kind of like, because obviously she felt a little guilty, because it's like, why do I deserve to be happy when my mom's dead? And, I think Jordan feels that to some level too, because these are his friends. These are people he heard about in stories. So for them to kind of be almost outsiders to this whole thing, connected, because obviously, Octavia, as obviously these are her people, obviously Dioza had connections to him, but it's like, these aren't really Hope's people. They're not really Jordan's people either. And the same thing for Maddie. So even though it's, once again, it's just kind of like your parents are the ties. Your parents and aunt in in Hope's case, her aunt being Octavia, like that's you're once again it's by association, so it's really interesting when you break that down. But it's like Gabriel sacrificing himself, and obviously Octavia respecting his wishes to die, and everyone saying we'll see you again. Obviously Maddie's like, I'm not gonna let anyone else die because of me, so she's about to take the pills. I thought when they turned back around and she was going, I was like, did she stab herself and we just didn't see it? But it's like she went through the vent, she went back to get the knife, and so it's like, I don't want anyone else to die. I love you, Clark. And she stabs herself and gets teleported back. And it's like, shit. Granted, Clark does have the pills, but even the pills are just a tracker, so it's like they'll pinpoint, but it's like, they got what they want. Why would they ever, so it's like, we have to find the device, but the device is somewhere in that area, or rather that room. It's just like they can't see it, so it must have been cloaked or something for whatever reason. So it's like, well, now Bill's got what they want. They open up the portal. Not people, it's a bomb. Nate grabs it. I was like, wait, are we about to kill Nate? But he's like, oh, he puts it in the door, he closes it. Good. But the whole bunker starts breaking apart, so they're about to get buried alive type of thing. We see Maury and Murphy get separated, and you're like, wait, are we about to do that too? Dude, we're nearing the end. It's like, we're killing off characters. It's like, Gabriel, oh, he's dead. Last episode, we killed Bellamy. It's like, are we going to just start dropping bodies in these last episodes? Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, we got like 2 more episodes. Not unless there's more episodes that are coming out that I'm not aware of, but to my knowledge going into this, I kept saying it is only 16 episodes, I believe. We are down to the last 2 episodes. It's like, what the hell is going to go down? How is this all going to play out? Because once again, Bill has it in his mind that this is a war, but it's like Jordan, Naya, and Gabriel found out that it's a test. So it's like, so what's going to happen in that regard? Once again, who's going to be the one to take the test? What's going to happen to everybody on Earth? Like, now that Bill has Maddie, what's this all going to turn? Like, how is this all going to play out? I'm so very, very interested to see what the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, all like to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.